Hello and welcome to our channel, Cheating Exposed. Today, we're revealing another story to uncover the truth behind the lies. So, let's get started. Grab a cup of coffee or tea because this is a long story. My revenge began with discovering my wife's infidelity. Let's call her Keri. After 14 years of marriage and 3 kids, I saw a text appear on her work phone for just a few seconds that would forever change my life. It was a message that was explicitly suggestive and had no business being on anyone's work phone. It was on the lock screen, and the sender's name was visible. Let's call him Perry. I married Keri when I was 25, and she was 22. At the time, I was teaching high school, and she was an RN. After having our first child, Keri became a stay-at-home mom. Money was tight, so I took on an admin role in my department and coached 2 sports for the stipends. We made it work, and after a few annual pay raises, I stopped coaching and took advantage of a program to earn an administrative credential. Once I made the jump to administration, our last child was ready for preschool, and Keri decided she wanted to go back to work. Nursing jobs are always available, but they're not always the best positions. Keri pretty much had to start back at the bottom, working alongside nurses who were a lot younger than she was. They could handle back-to-back double shifts, which took a toll on Keri. When she asked her supervisor about other positions, she was told that without a Bachelor of Nursing Science, she wasn't going to move up. At the time, Keri had only the 2-year ADN. I told her that between preschool, after-school rec, and my retired mother, who was always willing to pick up the kids from school and watch them, I'd support her getting her BSN. It took her 3 years, but eventually, she had her BSN and was promoted to a better position at the hospital. Things were good for a while. We had plenty of money, so we finally moved into our own McMansion and bought new cars. I had transitioned from school admin to district admin, so I had more time to spend with Keri and the kids. She was working a more predictable schedule, and even with my often long hours at work, this change allowed us to finally take vacations to all the places we'd put on a list during our honeymoon. She kept that list in our wedding album. At some point years later, I noticed she was carrying 2 phones with her. When I asked her about it, she said it was a phone provided by the hospital. I didn't question her explanation because my district had also given me the option of a phone or a phone stipend, which I took instead. Again, months went by, and I thought we were a happy, perfect family. I charged my phone in our den while she charged her phones in our guest bedroom, which doubled as a computer room so we could keep tabs on the kids while they surfed the web. One evening, I was updating software on the computer when I noticed a light around her work phone. She had a habit of always turning her phones face down when charging them. Out of curiosity, I reached over to the phone and flipped it over. A message had popped up on the lock screen asking her when she'd like to be orally pleased again, but in much more suggestive language. I also saw that Perry had sent it. The world stopped around me. I just froze. My first thoughts were, what the hell was that about? It's her work phone. That kind of message gets people fired. Then it hit me. Was Keri having an affair? It's amazing how the brain works. I suddenly started remembering a lot of things Keri had done that seemed odd, but I'd either dismissed them myself or immediately accepted her explanation. She was always walking out of the room to answer a call or return a text, claiming that it would violate HIPAA if I overheard her talking about a patient. I accepted this because education has similar privacy laws regarding students. She would sometimes come home with the faint smell of cologne on her clothes and claimed it was from helping to move male patients. Again, I accepted this at face value, but it always struck me as odd how it seemed to be the same scent of cologne each time. Once the proverbial barn door was open, I started seeing a lot of things I'd missed before. Our love life in the bedroom had cooled off considerably, which wasn't helped by her having to leave the house at odd hours to fill in for other nurses who called in sick. I also recalled where I'd seen the name Perry before. A quick call to the hospital confirmed he was a doctor there. For the next week or so, I was walking around in a daze, trying to put all of the pieces together. One day, one of our kids left a book in Keri's car, which gave me an excuse to visit the hospital. Keri had told me personal visits were frowned upon. My child went up to get Keri's car key. I had forgotten my key to her car at home. While waiting, I struck up a conversation with a nurse in the lobby. I joked about how work phones seem like a blessing, but all they do is put you on call 24 hours a day. This led her to casually mention that the hospital was too cheap to give cell phones to nurses, so only high-level executives received them, which didn't include Keri. With pretty much everything confirmed, I took some personal time off the next day to talk to a divorce lawyer. The news she gave me was devastating. We lived in a community property state with no-fault divorce laws. Since I earned more money than Keri, she'd been the primary caretaker of the kids, and we'd been married for more than 10 years. Filing for divorce would leave me in a terrible position. I'd lose the house, pay alimony, give up a significant portion of my retirement, and pay child support for the next decade unless I somehow secured joint custody. The worst part? The fact that she cheated wouldn't make any difference. It didn't matter. I was crushed. There was only one person I trusted with this kind of information, Anne, a fellow teacher who had also transitioned to administration but was stuck at a school site. Anne had been married at 19, but her marriage was annulled when her husband got another woman pregnant. Since then, she had focused entirely on her career. We shared a lot in common, especially regarding K-12 education, and I knew I could count on her for advice. I confided in Anne. She said something that shifted my entire mindset: if you don't like the hand you're dealt, change the deck. It hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized my two major obstacles were: I made more money than Keri. She had more time than me to be the primary caretaker of the kids. The second issue was surprisingly easy to address. At every district office, there are certain roles considered fast tracks to higher positions, and then there are positions that are essentially dead ends, like mess or KP duty in the military. One of these undesirable regulatory positions had opened up again. Most administrators avoided it or left as soon as a better position became available. I sat down with our district superintendent and asked to be transferred to that position. At first, he was shocked, but I told him it was my time to take one for the team, and that filling this role would address a gap in my administrative experience. After some deliberation, he agreed. The new job was mostly crunching numbers, with no personnel or student interaction. The best part? I could set my own schedule and even work from home on a laptop. With this newfound flexibility, I began taking a more active role in my kids' lives. I dropped them off and picked them up from school, skipped after-school rec programs, and didn't rely on my mom for babysitting. I helped them with their homework, made dinner, and got to be fully present. Initially, my goal was to establish myself as the primary caretaker, but something unexpected happened. I loved it. Truly loved it. Being there for my kids in a way I hadn't been before was incredibly fulfilling. While my salary remained unchanged, I needed Keri to significantly increase her income. That would even out our financial balance. I remembered how furious she had been after earning her BSN, only for a supervisor to tell her, in the future, bachelor's degrees will be worthless. Everyone will need at least a master's. That comment had infuriated her, undermining all the hard work she'd put into getting her BSN. So, I suggested she start an MSN program. I framed it as a great opportunity. With my flexible schedule, I could handle everything at home. She was hesitant at first, but when I added, "You'll have every evening free to study or go to class, whatever you want," her eyes lit up. I knew she was probably imagining more time with Keri, but I kept that thought to myself. To ensure she was actually pursuing her Master of Nursing Science, I paid her tuition and fees directly to the university. Completing the program would take her about 2 to 3 years. Those years were rough. Every time she rushed off or came back from meeting Keri, I could see it, the excitement or satisfaction in her eyes that was absent when she was focused on her coursework. I had to play it cool, smiling and pretending not to notice. But it wasn't easy. My temper grew short, and we argued over petty nonsense. A few times, I nearly lost control. It took everything I had to bite my tongue and apologize instead of unleashing the anger and insults I felt she deserved. Anne was my rock through all of this. After I'd recommended her for my previous fast-track position, she joined me at the district office. She was qualified, hard-working, and ambitious, exactly what the role needed. Once she got her foot in the door, she impressed everyone, earning me a few pats on the back for bringing her on board. Through it all, Anne remained my confidant, offering advice and support as I navigated this delicate balancing act. Anne and I eventually began our own affair. It wasn't a passionate whirlwind romance, but rather two close friends giving each other the emotional support we needed. Without Anne, I don't think I could have kept up the facade of being the oblivious husband. Every time Keri came home beaming after spending time with Perry, I was able to smile back, knowing I had my own quiet solace in Anne. 3.5 years later, Keri completed her Master of Science in Nursing and received a promotion at the hospital. Her salary increased significantly, surpassing mine. To celebrate, the kids and I prepared a congratulations dinner for her. During the meal, I joked about her being the new breadwinner of the family, to which she laughed and teased, "Maybe you should be a stay-at-home dad now." A month later, armed with the new financial reality, I revisited the divorce lawyer. She didn't remember me at first, but her tone shifted when I explained how drastically things had changed. With Keri's increased income, the lawyer drafted the petition, and we filed it. When the kids were spending time with my mother, a deputy arrived at our home to serve Keri the divorce papers. I let him in, pointed to Keri, and watched as he asked her name before handing her the documents. While the deputy stood there, I calmly told Keri that I knew all about her affair with Perry, though I didn't reveal how long I'd known. Her reaction was explosive. She screamed, denied everything, and then made the mistake of rushing at me in anger. The deputy stepped in, firmly warning her, "Women go to jail for domestic violence, too, these days." He suggested she pack a bag and find somewhere else to stay. Keri eventually left after I promised not to tell the kids about her affair. I kept that promise, but only to them. I confided in my mother, who then told my sister, which set off a domino effect through the family grapevine. It wasn't long before my kids heard from their cousins that Dad is divorcing Mom because she has a boyfriend. In the end, the court granted the divorce. Since I was already the kids' primary caretaker, I was awarded primary custody. I kept the house with the agreement to refinance and buy out Keri's share. She was ordered to pay child support, and I used that as leverage to negotiate. In exchange for waiving any claim to my retirement savings, I agreed to buy her out entirely. I refinanced what was now my home during a time when banks were practically giving money away. With a little help from my parents, I bought out Keri's share of the house and my retirement. The day she signed the paperwork, severing any financial ties between us, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I could finally breathe. Anne, who had been my constant support, was there to celebrate with me. She had been my rock through the hardest years of my life, the one person I could cry to when the weight of everything became too much. Eventually, Anne and I got married. She earned a promotion to a higher position, and when my youngest child reached high school, I was convinced to return to my old job at the district. Surprisingly, Keri and I found a way to get along after the divorce. We took the kids to family therapy, which helped us navigate the complexities of co-parenting. For months, the kids grilled her relentlessly, asking, "Why did you need a boyfriend when Daddy was there all along?" Therapy and the kids' questions hit her hard. I didn't have to say a word. Keri's new demanding job caused her to miss significant time with the kids. Watching them miss their mother, I encouraged them to talk to her on the phone, trying to make up for the lost connection. When Keri learned I had proposed to Anne, she congratulated me. I even told her it was okay for her to marry Perry. That's when she broke the news: Perry had left her. He'd moved on to a younger nurse, claiming Keri wasn't fun anymore with her packed schedule. She looked to me for sympathy, but I had none to give. What I did have were years of pent-up anger and frustration. I remembered all the sleepless nights knowing another man was with my wife. I'd lost weight, developed hypertension, and even faced dental issues from grinding my teeth. I endured intimate moments with Keri during those years, always wearing a condom under some excuse and secretly getting STD tests before seeing Anne again. In the end, though, every bit of effort was worth it. Yes, Keri received a payout when I bought her out, but most of it trickled back to me through child support. She lost nearly everything else. She only saw the kids every other weekend and on a few holidays. Perry, the man she threw her marriage away for, turned out to be a twice-divorced father of 5, drowning in alimony and child support payments. Meanwhile, I kept my house, my retirement, my income, and most importantly, my kids. I married Anne, and I'm genuinely happy now. In a community property, no-fault divorce state, I came out on top. If that's not the ultimate pro-revenge, I don't know what is.